All right. Yeah, no, this should be good now.
All right. All right. So,
Alright.
Colby, last question for you. Favorite college football player of all time?
Oh, probably like Marcel Aitman because like he did everything else other than play receiver.
Love it.
Like I mean,
Love
like he blocked like every play and he was legit and he just kept going. I like that dude a lot.
Love it. All right, that's Colby, otherwise known as Cheese. Next, we're going to have Wilson Maniac, also known as Vance. Vance, tell us about yourself, how long you've been a fan, favorite memory, favorite college football player.
Let's see, Vance Wilson. I've been a college football fan since like early as I can remember. Man, I got OU clothes from birth.
Mm.
I grew up. My favorite college football memory, unfortunately, was a loss to OU. Was OU in Florida playing in BCS National Championship in 2008 because I was only like 4 years old in 2000 when last time OU won the BCS Championship. So
Jesus.
unfortunately, that's what made me a big O Tim Tebow fan. I was
We're streaming with a kid, Cody.
Yeah, she was a youngster. I forget that.
One. Yeah.
He's my boss.
That was my favorite moment watching college football at the time was just seeing OU going in all hyped to Sam Bradford and the Adrian Peterson at the time. And I thought we were just going to steamroll Florida, and Florida just rolled on in there and absolutely mowed us down like it was nobody's business. It was a fantastic game to watch. Also watching OU and OSU play in 2011. I think OSU actually took that W as well. It was
We dominated that W.
It was 42 to like 10.
Yeah, OSU did an absolutely phenomenal interception where the dude caught it out of bounds, flying out of the air, and threw it back in bounds to another player. It was just probably the most iconic moment I could ever remember watching college football.
I remember that play very vividly. I was there too. That was a different game, wasn't it? 'Cause OU won that game.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, that was a different
I'd
game.
have to look that one
I think
back
it was a different
up,
game.
but
I think it was a different game. I do remember that play but it was a fantastic play.
It was the most amazing play I've ever seen in college football.
Because I remember that year, it was up for play of the year on the ESPYs, but the women's soccer team made a goal to win a game, and they added that to the list. I was like, well, wait a minute. And then also I was like, that's a play you never see before. You don't see somebody do that very often.
No, you just don't see that.
No, you don't. Anything else? Favorite player?
Favorite player of all time in college football is this man right here, Reggie Bush, number 5 for USC.
He played college football?
I did play college football, yeah.
He did? I'm pretty sure he didn't. There's no stats or anything.
Oh, yeah. There's just no Heisman Trophy. I think that's all they took away from him.
Give it back.
Him diving into the end zone here against Chicago in the NFC Championship game. Watching Reggie Bush and then him getting drafted to my favorite team in the NFL was just absolutely phenomenal.
That's right. I forgot about that. You're a big Saints fan.
Big time.
Big Saints fan. So that brings us to me. I'm Cody, also known as Trigger. Again, lifetime college football fan. Watched OSU growing up, which is weird because my entire family's OU fans, giant OU fans like Vance. But I somehow became an OSU fan. My earliest memory of college football is remember watching, I think it was the 96 team of Oklahoma State, Artie McCorners, Tony Lindsay, Jamal Fobbs. Simmons was the running back. I loved that team. I remember that being my first team that I actually remember. Favorite memories, same as Colby's. We were at the 2011 game, Bedlam. OSU won their first conference title in forever, and their first Big 12 title. I remember just storming the field, hugging random people as we came across them. It was like, oh my God, we actually did this. It was absolutely nuts. Love that team. It's rare for OSU fans, obviously, to win conference titles because it's never really happened in our lifetimes until then. It was just big for us. It was awesome to experience it. And then we got robbed out of a national title game a week later. That was absolute robbery that we didn't go to the national title game that year. We'd have stomped LSU. Would have stomped them. And you won't talk me out of it. Favorite player is probably J.W. Walsh. That dude is the hardest worker probably ever in a college football team. He did everything he wanted to do. If I could have one wish, especially college football wise, it would have been for him to lead us to a national championship because that dude was just, I don't know, just level of character, amazing. If he could have transferred any time and started a lot of big time schools with his run game and kind of pass game, but he didn't. He stayed at Oklahoma State, stayed true to his commitment, and just really at that point, he became my favorite player. I look forward to the day where Gundy retires and he takes over as our head coach.
Dude, Gundy's never going to retire. Mike Gundy's there forever.
He's gonna become a robot. Like what's the plan?
He'll be there forever. It's like
you're gonna make me sad.
when they're just going to
Android
chop his head
Gundy?
off, throw it in some water, and just someone's just going to wheel him around the sideline.
A little Futurama going on.
I'm kind of down for that though.
Can we not? I'm over 9-3. It's cool, but we need somebody else in there. All right, that's an intro. Let's talk about some headlines for the Cavs off season. Let's start with the NIL rules. As everybody knows, the players get paid now for their likeness, images, autographs, camps, etc., etc. So let's start with Cheese here. Cheese, what are your thoughts on NIL rule? Opinions on it? Where you think it could go? Goods, bads, etc.
I think it's going to make all the best teams better. I mean, if you're a great college football team like Bama or OU, you're going to have a huge draw for athletes, and you're going to already get great athletes. Now you're going to get the best because a team like OSU, like we talk about Oklahoma State, as good as they are, they just don't offer the market that an OU or a Bama or an Ohio State offer. And so while OSU and all the teams will benefit and all the players will benefit, the best teams will benefit the most and just become better. And so you're going to see less parity over the years. And I also think you're going to see teams hire more marketing firms just because, say, we're talking about Heisman a little bit, but Spencer Rattler wins a Heisman. Now his NIL status goes even higher. And so, I mean, just to be able to convince players that, hey, you're going to have not only a chance to win awards, but we're going to hire marketing teams to do that. I think that college football is going to become much closer to the NFL in the sense of the business side of things for the players. And so, I mean, that's good and bad in a lot of ways. They have the chance to earn money from their skills and abilities like everybody else on the planet. So that's good. But you're not going to see as many, like a Boise State's just not going to be as good. Like they probably will never beat an OU team like they did in 2000 or whatever that was. I mean, that's just not going to happen in the next within a decade of this rule because the best teams will be even more elite.
How about you, Vance?
First off, I think Spencer Rattler charging $150 for an autograph is an obscure thing and forever. The dude's barely got his name out there. He's out there charging money like it was no business. And yet, like she said, a lot of teams like Alabama, Georgia, the SEC teams that get a lot of recognition, Florida, also known as DBU, OU, teams like that are just going to get a ton of more recruiting. When OU moves on to the SEC in a couple of years, same with Texas, they're going to get a lot more recruiting, a lot more players are going to benefit off this. I mean, the Alabama quarterback ain't even started a game yet, and he's already nearing $1 million.
I bet he's hit it by now.
Yeah, he's got to hit it by now. It's insane that this is happening for players. It's fantastic it's happening for players. It's going to be fantastic for recruiting. Just a couple more years, it's just going to blow up even more, especially with the new game coming out, NCAA.
Yes, sir. Pumped about that. So, Vance, I'll stay with you for a minute. So, you mentioned Spencer Rattler charging $150 per autograph. A lot of people were mad about that. Do you think that was the agent on his side charging that? I mean, and do you blame him? Like, if somebody's going to pay it, I mean, why not charge it, right?
Yeah, it's all marketing. I believe he walked away from that day. I'm not sure how much the money was, but it's like he had a ton of people rolling up to buy autographs from him, and then a lot of people stormed away because how much it costs. So, I mean, it had to be preset market. Granted, he's probably going to be the first OU quarterback since 2002 or since 2000 to take OU to a college football playoff championship. So maybe the money is worth it, man. I mean, maybe he's the favorite for the Heisman. OU's favorited for the number one offense in the nation. They're favorited to be in the top 4 again this year. They're probably going to take over the number 1 position, assuming Alabama loses or their new quarterback doesn't step up.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where people are. It is a good thing. So, like, players deserve to be paid for the likeness. Like, I don't disagree with that. I'm 100% against schools paying like a salary to players. I think that's a terrible idea. But I mean, it makes sense for them to make money off likeness, like college football games, or like I know one of the things I was excited about for athletes, like college swimmers can't do camps. They can't pay to do camps because it's against NCAA rules. So I think that's ridiculous. They should get paid for that. That's fine. I think my problem with this situation is that like it's unlimited. Anybody can make anything at any time. Anybody can pay them, and it's just too much, right? Like there's no reason a quarterback from Alabama should be making $900,000 because all this is going to encourage is boosters. Like one example I always use is Oregon, right? One of the big donors like owns Nike. Well, all they have to do is like, hey, like you sign with Oregon, you automatically get a Nike sponsorship, and it's immediately off the top. Like that's a thing that can happen now. I'm not saying it's happened yet, but it definitely could, right? And it's just so now Oregon just gets all these great athletes just because of Nike. And I think it needs to be monitored more. I think there should be more rules to it, restrictions, regulations. I think just opening up to everybody and anything was too much. But Colby, ask you a question. You mentioned the better teams getting better, obviously. Smaller schools not having quite a chance. So how do you think it plays into like schools in bigger markets like Houston? You think Houston can make some noise in a bigger market like that with NIL rules, or do you think it's only going to benefit teams who are already good?
I think we can see. I think the shift will have to be quick. I mean, if you want to get good, you need to make a lot of money because it's not just about somebody paying an athlete. Because every school is going to have I mean, Princeton has rich people in their school that can pay athletes. It has to do with the ability for that school to market their players. And so, like an example I've heard, like the fourth string wide receiver at pick any school, like a Kansas State, a Baylor, doesn't have the same exposure that the fourth wide receiver at Bama has. Yeah. Equal position, but a far different reach for marketing and for the NIL. And so, and the number one wide receiver at Houston has a different reach than the number 4 receiver at Alabama. Like I'd say that number 4 Alabama receiver is probably in a better position to make more money from NIL contracts than that number 1 wide receiver at Houston is. And so I think it's going to be difficult for teams to rise up. I think, again, and there's some strategy to this. Maybe OSU has some boosters, or any school that has a lot of money has some boosters, and they target a year to be good, right? Instead of saying, hey, we're just going to recruit really well every year. In 2022, we're going to spend like $200 million and make sure we get the best players. And so you might see that happen too. And I think one thing you're going to see happen is coaches get players they don't want. Because a booster is going to pay some kid to come to their school, and the coach is going to have no idea what's happening.
Oh, that's a really good point.
That makes sense. I also, so when it bothers me is that I went to Oklahoma State, obviously, so in Stillwater. So like, what's stopping and Stillwater's not a great example because it is a smaller town, but like, there's a restaurant here called Sirloin Stockade. And what's stopping them from spending thousands of dollars to just sponsor all the offensive line for Oklahoma State? Like it'd be a better example if there was like Bama, but I didn't go to Bama, so I don't know what's there, obviously. But like local restaurants or car dealerships. I mean, I know actually, not to
take any shots by vehicle.
I don't know.
I'm sure they'll find a way.
But because is it cash only? I mean, this is a question. Is it cash only, or can you be like, hey, here's this new Corvette?
I don't know. I would assume it's cash only. I don't have a clue, to be honest with you. But so like, you had a situation with Rhett Bomar. Early 2000s of like he was working for a car dealership. Well, he doesn't have to work anymore. They can just pay him. Like, no, he sponsors us. You know what I mean? So like it opens up a lot of situations. What I think I would have done if I was the NCAA is I would have probably like only like 5 players from each team can make so much money, or you only make so much money in general. You can't make $900,000 in a preseason. You even started a game. I just think there are a lot more restrictions they could have put on it. It just seems like it's gonna get out of hand for me. I feel like it's just gonna cause, like Colby said, a lot less parity, a lot more of the best 4 teams are gonna say the best 4 teams. So now the playoff has to expand. You're never gonna see any other teams in that playoff.
Yep. So there's a lot of talk about moving off to a 16-team college playoffs, which I think would be phenomenal.
See, I think it's too much. Let's talk about that next.
It probably is too much. But having teams like, let's see, your top 16 from last year. I'm gonna pull this up real quick.
Yeah,
you guys want? I'll show you your last 16 teams rankings. Let's look at last year's schedule. So you'll have teams like Iowa and Northwestern who would have gotten to the college playoffs. Now, granted, BYU would have had to play Alabama week 1. I mean, that's not really like.
Looking at?
I'm looking at the college football rankings from last year. Oh, that's preseason.
AP or coaches?
The playoff rankings.
Yeah. Rankings. Yeah. So we'll have teams like BYU playing Alabama with USC just missing the cut. Now, granted, different teams are getting in for the college football playoffs. I think they would easily put USC over BYU to make them play Alabama. That's more of a money draw, getting teams like that in there. Texas probably would have hopped in there and got to play somebody, right? And then you'd have your teams like 8 and 9, Cincinnati and Georgia. It'd probably be a really good game on paper looking at that. And then you'd have OU versus South Carolina or Coastal Carolina. I was like, a 16-team playoff would just be so big, but they'd also have to shorten the regular season so that they could help reduce injuries going into the college playoffs.
Well, they might be able to do that too with it going to this alliance, the Pac-12, ACC, Big Ten, obviously, and SEC getting so big. Maybe they could make the regular season shorter, like get rid of non-conference games. There's gonna be no point in it. I mean, it's gonna be points where like, you're just scheduling cupcakes anyway if you're playing that stacked of a conference schedule. So maybe that. So my problem with a 16-team playoff, even a 12, I don't. It appears it's going to a 12-team playoff next. That seems to be the next step everybody's talking about. I think it's too many. I just don't think teams like even number 12, Coastal Carolina. That's a great story. I don't need to see them play in the
Get
playoff.
destroyed by
I know
Alabama.
they're not. I know they're not the best team in the. Well, they would have played. So in a 12 team, they would have played A&M. But it's the same thing.
Of
A&M
course.
destroys them most likely. Like I don't need to see them. I know they're not the best team in college football. To me, a 6-team playoff is the best because you get the 5 well, not now Power 5, but this is before the expansion. You get the 5 Power 5 champions, and you get one group, the best group of 5, and then that's who the best. If you're not the best in your conference, you're not the best in the country. That's really all there is to it. I don't see a way around that because it's not the same as basketball. Basketball is different. You play multiple games a week. It's a whole what's going on. College football, you get 1 game a week. So to me, 6 was the number. Cooley, what do you think about the playoff expansion? Where do you think it should be at?
I mean, I think that everything's changed now. Now that you have, because like the SEC, I mean, there could be years where Alabama and OU don't play. Even in a conference championship situation, they might not play. So I don't know that argument's going to stay valid. That if you're not the best team in your conference, that you're not the best. I mean, like we won't know because OU could lose to Florida, right? And just not get to play for the championship, but they didn't play Bama. I mean, I don't know. That argument's going to lose steam as these conferences get bigger. And I mean, just because they're not going to have as much head to head as they used to. So I think a 6 or 8 team playoff would be great. I mean, I do think though, like I said, with NIL, like the top 4 teams are going to be the top 4 teams.
Yeah.
Like if we had gone back and say, you know, when did the playoffs start? Like 2013 or something, 14. And we did a 12-team playoff. I think you could see a 12 seed or an 8 to 12 seed have some success, but in a decade, no 8 to 12 seed would ever beat the number 1 or 2 seed because that number 1 or 2 seed is going to be Alabama, who's an NFL team with the NIL stuff.
Very true.
So it's just, I mean, expanding it's great. It's not going to really matter within a decade. The top teams are going to be the top teams. 4 teams would be better in 10 years than they, I mean, it's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah, so it seems like it kind of is not, to me, it's not great for college football. The top 4 teams are going to be Bama, Clemson, OU, and Ohio State. Like, I don't see it's going to be hard to dethrone them. Like, I don't know, we'll see OU moving into the SEC, how that affects their, I think they'll be fine, especially for a while. I think long term they'll be fine. But, I don't see anybody surprise. Maybe Notre Dame jumps in. They've got quite a market.
Yeah, Notre Dame's,
they could jump in.
Chance.
I can see A&M. Well, I guess there's some schools that could, I guess.
But you're not, I mean, not year in and year out.
Know.
I think there's going to be some strategy as far as when you spend money and how you.
That's a good point,
Because like if you said, all right, these next 2 years we're going to spend $200 million a year as boosters. I mean, you could load you could load a BYU.
Yeah.
Or maybe like Louisiana Lafayette if they had a bunch of rich people. I don't know, but they could load up a team for a couple years. I mean, it's kind of like the NBA, right? Like you have to pick your time to be good.
Yep.
With the salary cap and stuff.
I think Oklahoma State in that situation, they're going to have to pick a
Oklahoma
time.
State could get, that's how
they're going to have to be.
So like the Oklahoma States, like whatever, all the teams in that tier of college football, that's how they're going to have to operate is, hey, we have boosters that have money. We need to pick some years to be good. And then hope for the best in those years.
So let's kind of move from that to the expansion. We kind of already touched on it a little bit. First of all, chat says Bartholomew says he likes the 8 or 12 teams, and he thinks OU, Clemson, Ohio State, and Bama are going to run the place for the next 5 years minimum. I agree with all that. I don't think see much change in that. Let's move on to expansion. We'll start with you, Vance. I know you're big OU fan, so this was probably bigger news for you. OU and Texas going to the SEC. Thoughts on that? Long term, short term? How's OU going to do? How's Texas going to do? When do you see it playing out? Give us your thoughts on that.
So OU and Texas are planning on leaving in 2025. I think they're going to leave sooner than that. They could leave very much after 2022, not the 2021 season, but following the 2022 season. With the new TV rights deal, I could see OU finding some money wiggle room to sneak their way off into the SEC. Same with Texas. I really love that moving to the SEC. I think it's going to help with recruiting. It's definitely going to help with the competitive scene for OU. We're going to see OU versus Bama, possibly, depending on what side of the SEC they go into. If not, we're getting Georgia. Man, there's just so many possibilities moving into the SEC. Recruiting is 100% going to go up by a lot. Now, let's pull up the SEC here so I can get both sides, and then I can tell you guys. So if we move into the SEC East, we're playing teams like Florida and Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee. If we move into the West, we get Alabama, Arkansas, LSU, Auburn, and A&M, and Mississippi State if they can ever return back to their former glory post Dak Prescott days. I personally think OU and Texas moving to the SEC is going to be fantastic. Now OSU, they need to move to the Pac-12.
They're not going to.
Yeah,
They
Pac-12
need
announced today they're not expanding.
AAC?
Yeah, the ACC.
AAC, here we come.
Yeah, moving there.
No,
I mean, go
AAC.
the AAC.
Yeah, I didn't say
Oh,
ACC.
God.
AAC.
Oh man,
AAC. Yeah.
the AAC. Huh? Man, that would.
So, and in chat, Matt says, "Oh, you're going to be at least a two-loss team in SEC until they get some defense recruited." What are your thoughts on that, Vance?
Sorry, repeat
You're
that.
two-loss team every year.
I was reading something from chat.
Yeah, I was going to say the chat says OU will be a two-loss team in the SEC until they get some defense. Thoughts on that?
Moving to the SEC is going to help them recruit defense. SEC is known for their defensive players making it to the NFL. OU currently in the Big 12 is not, because the Big 12 is more of an offensive powerhouse compared to the SEC. The SEC does have offensive powerhouses, but the SEC is more built around defense. They get better athletes at safety. They get better athletes at corner. They produce people. Well, this is a Clemson guy, but they produce people like Isaiah Simmons. The SEC produces people like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who's just an all-around freak at the safety position right now in the NFL. It's like there's just so many different possibilities that the defense can expand for OU in the SEC that they can't in the Big 12.
So here's kind of my thoughts on that. I think two things have happened, and this is kind of probably my bias jumping in. The SEC has some great athletes on defense. The SEC is not a great quarterback play until the last couple of years. They haven't. I mean, they don't play the offenses the Big 12 plays. And when they play them, so Alabama gets OU after a month and a half of preparation. Alabama doesn't your normal season, you get a week to prepare for a team. You give Nick Saban a month and a half to prepare for anybody, he's going to be prepared. The team's going to be ready. Now, Grant, I don't think OU could drop 60 on Alabama, but I think he could drop 35-40 if they played them after a week. I think it's going to be a bit of a mix. I think when OU gets to the SEC, I think those defenses, of course, the defenses aren't good anymore anyway. If you notice, last year was a bit of a switch. The Big 12 offenses, other than OU, weren't super great. Like, they were okay. Iowa State was pretty decent. But, like, they're not an offense that I'm scared of. You know, they're not going to drop a 50 bomb on any point.
This year they will be.
They might. They very well could this year. But like their offenses weren't worrisome this year. The defense, like OU had a good defense, OSU had a good defense, Iowa State had a good defense. And that could have been because the quarterback play was down. Quarterback play wasn't as good as it normally is in the Big 12. But I think when SEC teams get to play OU after a week of preparation, I think they're going to be room for a rude awakening of you can't just guard these guys normal. Like it's going to be a different ball game. I think they're going to have a lot of success offensive wise. I mean, you saw Mike Leach have success this year in Mississippi State on some games because it's hard to prepare for that offense after a week, you know. So let's do this real quick, Vance. I'm gonna go down a list of SEC teams. We'll do OU first, okay?
Okay.
I'm gonna say the team. I want you to tell me if OU could beat them right now.
Okay.
On a consistent basis. So we'll start. I'll start top and I'll go down and give me win or loss.
Let's hear it.
Florida.
Florida, yes. OU's beating Florida all day, especially this year with the most prolific offense.
Okay. Georgia.
That one may be a little bit more tough.
Let's do it like last 4 or 5 years, like a bit kind of a group together. Like, if you think OU is better or worse than team after like last 4 or 5, maybe a couple years going forward.
Better than Florida.
I agree. Georgia.
Better than Georgia the last 4 years. I think we just had a tough game against them in the playoffs a couple years ago, but we got shut down in the first half and then made a great comeback in the second half.
I blame Lincoln Riley for that game directly because if I remember right, you guys had just scored about to go into half, and you're kicking the ball off, and he squib kicked it. And it hit somebody in front, and Georgia got a field goal going into halftime and gave them all the momentum. And then from that point on, Georgia just
Yeah, they
The
just
running
kinda,
game took over.
they just took that game
But
after.
okay, so Georgia taking OU. I think I would agree with that. Missouri. I think it's been kind of boring actually for OU because I think
Yeah,
OU's
just
kind of better than
do the
SEC.
top SEC teams. The lower
Well, let's
SEC
just do
teams,
this.
OU's better than.
What teams in the SEC you think are better than OU right now, or could you like in the like
Right as of
immediate
right
future?
now, Alabama is the only team in the SEC that can give OU fits. Texas A&M,
I agree.
the jury's still out, right? We haven't seen enough. I don't think. Maybe LSU is kind of fallen apart since the Joe Burrow leaving, the Jamar Chase, and the Jefferson. I mean, it's just like that team's not what it was. Alabama's the only team that gives me concerns if they move into the SEC.
I agree. So Colby, thoughts on that? Anybody in SEC that is just flat better than OU?
I mean, college football isn't necessarily about who's flat better. I think equal footing. I think Georgia's equal footing. I think Florida has some equal footing, even though OU beat the crap out of Florida last year. But I don't know. I think OU's going to have more problems than what they think, just because it's not a defensive conference anymore. I mean, even Nick Saban has said that. It's more about offense. And so I think they're going to run into the same problems they run into the Big 12. They might be able to recruit better, but it's about coaching and it's about developing defensive players, something they haven't had a chance to do for the last decade. So we can say like they're going to get better defensive players, but they're going to know what to do with them because they haven't had elite defensive players for a long time.
That's
And
true.
so,
But I think Alex Grinch got them going in the right direction.
for now, until he goes to
True.
the head coaching job. I mean,
That's
and
true.
you look at, Lane Kiffin and Mike Leach are both in the SEC now, and so they're going to be scheming. They know Mike Leach knows OU front and back. I mean, he knows how to play against those athletes, and so they could give him fits for a while. I mean, he knows how to scheme against good defenses. I mean, Mike Leach basically brought down defense in the Big 12 single-handedly. So
He really did. He changed the entire game. He really did. Okay, so we all agree Alabama is probably just better than OU. Like, right? It is where it is right now. And I think it's gonna say that wait till Saban leaves. He's got that thing rolling. They're probably the best program in college football. I agree. A&M. I think A&M's a step below. I agree with Advanced there. You haven't seen enough. They're always supposed to be good, but they're always like, oh, if we play Bama, we can't win. Well, if you can't beat Bama, then what's the point in being there? And I'm never a big believer in LSU. They have their 1 year and then they go to nothing for 3 or 4 years,
Yep.
and they'll pop up for a year. So I don't consider that a great program. You have your years, and congratulations. So let's do Texas because I think Texas is further down the
500 team?
list. So I'm gonna go down the list again. Both of you guys give me can Texas beat them this year? We can get their record. All right, Florida,
no,
no. Georgia,
No.
Missouri.
Yes.
they could.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go yes on that. Kentucky.
Maybe. It depends if
Awesome.
Kentucky brings back that running game they had with Benny Snell. No chance.
Yeah.
It's a toss-up.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Probably.
Tennessee's
Yeah.
terrible right now.
Yeah, they're terrible. Well, they got Heupel coming this year, so that hopefully that might turn around. He did at UCF, although he did kind of get some players from the old regime. South Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
It would be Vanderbilt. They're like Kansas.
Yeah,
Everybody's
Vanderbilt's the
Although
worst.
Texas has struggled with that series recently. Bama's obviously gonna beat Texas. A&M's obviously gonna beat Texas. Auburn.
Yeah, they can't beat Auburn.
No?
I don't think so. I think Auburn's defense is going to be too elite for Texas.
Okay. Ole Miss.
Yeah, Texas can beat Ole Miss.
Yeah,
Think so?
for Mike Leach's. I don't think so.
No,
I think Mike Leach is going to have to give it 2 years.
Who's the Ole Miss?
Kiffin.
I still think Kiffin can beat Texas.
Am I right about that? I'm pretty sure. I know Leach is at Mississippi State. Arkansas.
Texas can beat Arkansas.
Yeah,
Arkansas is like the third laughing stock of the SEC.
Right. Mississippi State.
It's
maybe.
possible, yeah. That's a toss-up.
And LSU.
No, I don't think.
LSU still beats Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, right now, going down the list, Texas wins 3-4 games in the SEC against everybody.
I mean, they probably get one of those games we said no to, but probably not many.
There were a couple maybes. There were only like 3 or 4 or 2 or 3 different yeses.
If they get thrown into the SEC East, Texas is the only team they're losing to is probably Florida and Georgia, and then maybe they'll have a toss-up game in between out of all those. But in the West, they're probably looking at. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 teams in the West, and they'll
They're
lose to
immediately-
4 of them.
Yeah. Oh, 5 of them. Well, I guess 4. I think they lose Ole Miss too. I think they beat Ole Miss.
Well, here's the thing too. They're gonna play OU every year.
Yep, and then they get the OU game.
Yeah, I'm counting OU. Yeah, so they're going to look pretty bad for a while, but I think being in that conference will help them. Marketing,
Here's
the
my
dollars,
biggest-
the NIL.
My biggest problem with Texas, because like OU, I think we can all say that they could recruit better defensively. Being in the SEC is gonna help OU recruit better defensively. Texas recruits really elite already. Like who else are they gonna get?
Not wrong.
Like,
Not
I
wrong.
don't see a huge amount of upside for recruiting for Texas. At least not as much as OU. And so they're gonna get about the same level of player, and now they have to play harder teams.
So I wonder how. So right now, A&M has gotten really good, but it's because they can recruit against Texas, saying, "Hey, we're in the SEC. You should come to play for us over Texas
Yeah,
because
maybe
we're
that
better." Well, do you think Texas now being the SEC will now bring A&M back down?
Maybe.
Because now they don't have an advantage. The advantage for is like, hey, we're in the SEC, right? We have all this stuff. SEC is better. Do you think they will now? Do you think Texas will bring them back down to where they were?
Yeah, Texas could steal a lot of their recruits. See.
Yeah, I can see it happening, which may bring Texas back up. I think right now Texas is losing recruits to A&M because of the SEC thing. And this is my opinion. I could be wrong. It could be. All right, so it's the headlines. Headlines you want to talk about? Anything on the offseason you brought up or I didn't bring up that you're interested in talking about?
Nope.
I still think OSU should go to the Pac-12. It's their best chance.
Let's talk about that real quick because I agree. I wish they would.
I don't disagree that it's their best chance.
Pac-12 was said today they are not expanding at this time. So they will not be going to Pac-12 anytime soon. I'm hoping maybe if OSU happens to have a really good year, maybe Pac-12 is like, let's reassess this after the year. But to me, it looks like you're heading to the AAC. Maybe having being like the Big 8. It's not looking good conference-wise. But here's my thought on it. I think on field-wise, barring going to the SEC, as far as on field concerned, it's all win for Oklahoma State. If you go to the Pac-12, you're probably the most consistent program in the Pac-12. I mean, Oregon's going to be there, but Oregon's not hands down better than Oklahoma State. I wouldn't think. I wouldn't say. I'm biased, but I wouldn't say Oregon's hands down better than Oklahoma State.
Yeah, USC, who's currently on the come up.
USC's on the come up, but like, I mean, where they're with them right now, I think NIL will help USC quite a bit. Washington has their years, but I think as of right now, Oklahoma State every year could win the Pac-12, and most years. I think they're on that level. They're only in the Pac-12 that's that great. They don't have an OU. Oklahoma State starts off second every year because OU is just better than they are, and they're not. It's not changing anytime soon. However, even if you stay in the group of 5, with a playoff going to 12 teams, the best group of 5 teams is getting in the playoff. So Oklahoma State can go to a group of 5 conference and just dominate that conference. Well, now you're in a playoff position, which is better than what they've been in the past anyway. Right? Thoughts on that? Opinions, your thoughts were
OSU's best chance. Yeah, can they stay good in the Pac-12? It's like, will they lose recruiting going to the Pac-12 to OU because of OU going to the SEC, causing OSU to, just be like that Washington or the Utah of the Pac-12?
I think if they're in a Power 5, I think they'll be fine. I'm saying if they go to like AAC, like I don't know if they're going to get the same type of recruit that they're getting now. Going to the Pac-12 is fine.
I mean, that's kind of Gunny's problem though. He's not getting great recruits. So that's his big criticism. He gets to the lower tier.
That's what I'm saying. We're going to get worse. Like, if that's who we can get when we're in the Big 12.
But see, I think that might actually help recruiting because now you can recruit out of California. You have a California you're playing 3 or 4 Pac-12 schools a year in California. Like, you're going to be in California every year. You're going to be over in the Northwest. You can now recruit that way better than you had before. So I think it could actually end up helping recruiting somewhat. You'll probably lose a couple more Texas guys, but if you're now recruiting out of California, Nevada's got some decent recruits. You just have a whole West Coast now, and the Pac-12 will be pretty much the only big-time college football in 3 time zones. So, like, it may end up helping a little bit in the long run. That's kind of my thoughts. Oklahoma State and what they could do, what could help. I don't know. It's interesting. We'll see. We will see where it goes. So let's move on to some predictions then. Shall we? Real quick, chat. Tommy thinks Texas would take LSU.
I totally
easy.
Oh, excuse me. I totally messed up my Discord. Yeah.
Well,
I thought this was going to be like 18 plus on the channel. I thought this was going to be like a Pat McAfee type thing. F the big guy, huh?
F the big guy.
What is going on
I
in the
don't mind
Discord
him.
right now?
What happened?
It's all zoomed in.
Oh, like you're seeing one big screen. So if you scroll up to the top right of your screen under the minimize button, there should be like 4 squares. Just click on that. It should be a focus button. Boom. You know, I'm kind of like a tech genius sometimes. You know,
Not true.
I have a tech guy for that. All right. So let's move on to some conference predictions. Let's move to let's do the SEC first. Let's start with Colby on this one. Colby, what are your thoughts on the SEC? Who you got winning the conference this year?
Bama's gonna win. That's the only thought that matters.
Bama's gonna win. Love it. No shot of Georgia taking him over, new quarterback. Doesn't worry you at all. Just Bama's
Nothing
winning.
worries me about Bama.
Nothing worries you about Bama. I like it. Vance, thoughts on SEC?
Agreed. I mean, Georgia has a chance, but it's like they say when you go into a boxing match, you have a puncher's chance. That's all Georgia has at this moment.
Okay. Well, I think the puncher chance comes a knockout. I think Georgia takes him this year. I think the new quarterback. I think JT Daniels becomes a star. I think Georgia moves on. I think they're gonna do. I think they're gonna do it this year. I think Georgia takes him. It's a bit of a long shot. I get it, which is weird saying because Georgia's like a top 5 team in the country, saying they're a long shot to win their conference. But Bama is that good. They are really good. I'm not on meth chat. That's ridiculous. But it's I think they can do. I think they do this year. They're due, right? Like Bama can't win
You
it
sound
every
like an
year.
Oklahoma State fan so much right now.
Yeah, but you see, probably.
If Georgia gets past Clemson in week 1, then I'll maybe change my point on Georgia.
Clemson week 1.
I think Georgia could be Clemson. It just doesn't bother me at all. I mean, it wouldn't change my prediction one bit.
I think Georgia beats Clemson. We'll talk about next week. We'll do
they have to handle Clemson for me to change my opinion.
Yeah, that may not happen.
Handle them.
That may not happen. It might though. Agree, chat. Ohio State is trash. So, thoughts on the SEC?
I'm getting a lot of OSU sucks in the chat here.
Yeah, Ohio State's terrible. I get it. Oregon State's also not very good. Thoughts on the SEC? Best players to watch. Thoughts?
I think going back to the NIL, I think that Alabama quarterback is really good because he's getting paid like $1 million to play, but I have no idea if he actually is good.
That's why I'm picking Georgia. You don't know. It's unknown.
That's the big question right now. Can Bryce Young become the real deal in Alabama? Can he take that step to replace Tua and Mac Jones, or even what is that dude's name?
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts back then, or even a quarterback that started 3 national championships for 4 years. AJ McCarron. Can he replace AJ McCarron? Yeah,
that guy was no good.
He's probably a top 5 college quarterback of all time, just because of his accomplishments.
What?
Oh, because of accomplishments.
Most decorated.
He's one of the most decorated college football players of all time. If he would have took home If he would have took home a Heisman, he'd probably be the greatest college football player.
It would have been a robbery and a travesty for him to ever win a Heisman Trophy. I get it. He's decorated. He had great. He's never the best college football player. Just my thoughts.
I have no business being on a college football field, but if I was the Alabama starting quarterback, I think I would be all right.
You win some games.
Yeah, especially if we get a Najee Harris in the back.
Right? Yeah, do the ball.
Yeah.
Those
hey, Derrick Henry, you want to go score a touchdown? Here you go.
All right.
I just had my staff screen pass. Like, hey, yeah, Derrick, can you go for screen pass? We'll throw it to you. You run for touchdown. I look like an 80-yard touchdown genius right now. It's fantastic. So basically, y'all's thoughts. Bama's going to roll with it. Bryce Young will see where he's at. Probably become a star. Me and Vance talked about this a little bit. So Bryce Young's probably not a problem. I trust Nick Saban regardless of how good that quarterback is. He's one of the few coaches I can say that about.
Again, AJ McCarron is one of the most decorated quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah.
Because of Saban.
You can trust Nick Saban. Regardless, Nick Saban is Nick Saban, and that team is absolutely loaded every year. They're the one team that I always say doesn't rebuild. They are absolutely reloaded. Like there's not like they're kind of down.
Yeah, they're not going through a rebuild year. They're in it every year.
Yeah, they're the playoff favorite every year, and that's just how good they are. Like even like OU and kind of Clemson this year, like you're pretty sure they'll be there, but they may not. Everybody expects Alabama to be in the playoff at the end of the year, 100%. All right, that'll be thoughts on the SEC. Let's move on a little bit here. Let's go to the Big Ten here. What are your thoughts on the Big Ten? I'll start with Vance on this one. Vance, thoughts on Big Ten champion, players to watch, things to look for.
All right, so Big Ten for Ohio State. I have their quarterback written down somewhere. Let me see if I can follow that up.
Stroud, CJ Stroud.
Yeah, CJ Stroud, man. It all depends on that guy. So Ryan Day is a big spread offense kind of guy, right? He's not let's line it up and pound it down your neck like we have Ezekiel Elliott back there again. It's like this dude's going to spread the field, so it all relies on CJ Stroud. I mean, he made Dwayne Haskins work, and that dude's an absolute dumpster fire in the NFL. So if he made Dwayne Haskins work, I see no problem him making CJ Stroud work.
Okay, I like it. Cheese?
Oh, I'm picking Ohio State as well.
Ohio State,
This is like several of these conferences are like some of the easiest picks. I mean, out there. I mean,
well, they all are. I mean, we've already talked about the best 4 teams are the best 4 teams.
Ohio State's just better. I mean, they just are. Wisconsin's pretty solid, but like Wisconsin's one of those low floor or low ceiling, high floor, right? Like, I mean, we know what we're going to get from them, but they're not going to beat Ohio State.
When they have a running back who is dominant, like Jonathan Taylor, somebody of that caliber, then we'll throw them in the conversation. That's how I feel.
Well, even then they still get stomped.
Even then they still can't beat them.
Yeah, Ohio State, and they still get stomped by Ohio State.
They're just better.
Cheese has a conspiracy about that, I think, that year, and it's pretty accurate. I think it's pretty accurate.
Let's hear it.
So let's talk about that real quick. So the year that TCU and Baylor were really good.
They were 5 and they were like, well, at that point they were like 4 and 5.
They were
wasn't Ohio State 6.
Yes.
And so all year Wisconsin had beaten everybody in the Big Ten by a lot, like a lot. And Ohio State had played really good too, but Wisconsin was out of the playoff picture, but Ohio State wasn't. And so all of a sudden, Wisconsin had they were like one of the top 10 defenses in the country, and they got smoked by like 50 points. Like it was bad. Like they just got absolutely annihilated. And that was the only way Ohio State could get in, was just by absolutely blowing the doors off of that really good Wisconsin defense. And so it made no sense that they got beat by that much, except the fact that when Ohio State gets in the playoff, they made everybody several $1 million. And so I think that Wisconsin laid down that game. I think they threw the game so they could.
The coach left like a week later. Wisconsin coach pieced out. I don't. There's no real truth behind it. It's an interesting thought. Like everything. If you look at the stats of that game, Wisconsin didn't run the ball like at all. They had like 20 carries.
Yeah.
Like that's what Wisconsin does. They pound the ball. There were some weird things that you're like, oh, that's kind of fun to think about. No proof behind it. No truth that we know of, but
I think
there's something to think about. I'm also picking Ohio State. I thought about going with Wisconsin or maybe an Indiana as a dark horse here. But at the end of the day, Ohio State's just more loaded than those teams are. As we talked about, some coaches you trust. I don't trust Ryan Day that much yet. New quarterback, new running backs, and it's basically losing a lot. But I trust Ohio State's talent to be greater than Indiana and Wisconsin and Iowa.
Ryan Day is just the Lincoln Riley of the Big Ten.
He might be could be by I got to see it first. Got to see him with his team, his recruits, new quarterback. See how it works. I think it'll be fine. I'm sure. But I looked at this conference for a while, and I really looked at Indiana like maybe a dark horse can make it, but it's not, because it's kind of the same problem that Big 12 has with OU and an Iowa State or a TCU or an Oklahoma State. Like you might have some good players, but like depth wise, you're not competing with them. They have 2-3 deep at most positions that are just as good as what you have starting everywhere. So you might be able to like at first stick with them, but after a while the depth just kicks in and they're too talented, too good. Ohio State wins this conference pretty easy. It'll be fun to see Indiana this year. They had a good year last year. If their quarterback, I can't think of his name right now, but if their quarterback can stay healthy, they'll be fun to watch. I will say I think they got kind of robbed last year, being voted out of the conference title game. But it was probably the right decision in the day, and it is what it is. So that's thoughts on Big Ten. Any final thoughts on Big Ten? Anything chat wants to say?
Nothing. Yeah. OSU, Ohio State.
Matt, even if they lose to Purdue again, they're gonna have to lose another one to somebody else. I don't think that happened this
year. One loss gets Ohio State into the playoff.
And that Purdue game was special because they had that fan of theirs. I can't remember his name, but he was like
a student.
Yeah. I forget, Trent something.
Yeah, I think Trent.
But yeah, they had the motivation. That was I watched that game and it was awesome to watch. So even if they do, they still won't lose another one, and they'll run the Big Ten. Sorry. So that takes care of the SEC and the Big Ten. Let's move over to the ACC. Let's start with So Vance last time. So it was Colby. Colby thoughts in the ACC.
I think Clemson wins it. Pretty clear-cut favorite. Again, new quarterback, but I mean that team's just so much more talented. Again, the top four of the top four. They're just better. And the ACC sucks. I mean, there's nobody. Florida State's awful. Miami's halfway bad. I mean, there's just not anybody to really challenge them. Even if they lose to Georgia that first week, I still think they run the table. I don't know if they get in the playoff with one loss because that conference is so bad and they're not playing anybody after Georgia. But I think they'll definitely win the ACC.
Vance?
They'll easily win the ACC. They do have Notre Dame on their schedule, and Notre Dame, terrible if they keep getting in the playoffs. But yeah, dude, they get in the playoffs, just get embarrassed. Miami, if they can return Derek King, this is his last year to prove he can be a top quarterback in the NCAA. Well, the jury's out on that guy. It doesn't look like they're playing. That's North Carolina. Yeah, they played North Carolina as well, and North Carolina is currently ranked at number 10 at the moment. I mean,
Sam Howell is a stud.
Yeah. Actually, Clemson does not play North Carolina. They're in the same conference and they don't play each other. These are the top two ranked teams in that conference. And they don't even play each other in the ACC. So they'll probably meet in the ACC championship at the end of the year. And the winner of that, just if North Carolina can finish off their season with one loss or no losses, North Carolina has a real shot to get into. But Clemson's a clear-cut favorite with Dabo. You can't doubt Dabo.
Yeah, again, yep. And it's weird that we're talking. We talk about the top four teams. The top four teams have probably the best four coaches in college football. The coaches are. It comes down to coaches. I think Nick Saban goes anywhere else, he has the same success. Yep. Maybe not immediately because he's got to build it, but he gets to that point.
Saban in Tulane, and he's building a championship team.
I think he's building a championship team. It'll take a little bit. Obviously, he's not going to do it the next year, but I think he gets there. So I'm also picking Clemson. Kind of like the Big Ten. I looked at this one a little harder actually for a dark horse. I really like Carolina. I like Sam Howell. He's a great quarterback. Mac Brown is a good coach. I mean, he's a good coach. You can't deny it. He had some success. He's won championships. And I looked at, speaking quarterbacks also win college football games. Sam Howell is really good. We don't know anything much about DJ Uiagalelei. Close enough. But with that, Clemson also has a defense that is athletic and rare to see. So I think at the end of the day, Dabo, that defense, you can't pick Carolina. Realistically, you can't do it. I looked at it hard. I thought Miami, but for me, Vance, the jury's out on Derek King, and he's not great. He's athletic as can be, but he didn't have much to do against Oklahoma State pre-injury. It wasn't going great. Oklahoma State destroyed that team for the most part. So to me, they're not a real contender.
Yep. This has got to be his year to prove out where he's done.
I don't think he has it.
If he doesn't put up a good year and at least take Miami to a ACC championship, he'll go undrafted, if not fourth round lower.
Yeah, I agree.
That's solely based on athleticism. If he goes fourth round.
Oh yeah, 100%. Dude's just super athletic. I mean, he's a great college quarterback.
Derek King?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, he's not going to play.
I'd say he's a decent college quarterback. He's just super athletic.
He's not going to be in the NFL as a quarterback.
No.
Yeah,
I don't think so either. Unless he just absolutely dominates this year.
See, I don't even think that matters. He's just not going to project as a quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't think he has it regardless. I don't think he can dominate. I don't think it's in him. From what I've seen, he had a good year at Houston, and then he got hurt and tanked a year, and he went to Miami, and he did okay. But I watched him at Oklahoma State.
Isn't he 30 at this point?
It didn't go well, so I have no faith in him at all. So basically, thoughts in the ACC, same as the other conferences. Clemson's clear-cut favorite. I think Carolina's a shot, but my reasoning also for Carolina is it's one game, right? They just got to beat them for one game because they're not playing them in the regular season. If Carolina can use that one game to beat them, then they're there. But it remains to be seen. And again, I trust Dabo Swinney to win all his games. So, last thoughts on the ACC chat, Colby, Vance.
No, it's Clemson
wins.
Yep,
Clemson, easy. All right. Who's the Big 12? Big 12. Let's start with Vance on this one. Vance, who you got?
All right. Got your Boomer Sooner, baby. That's all there is to it. I mean, Iowa State is the biggest threat to OU at the moment. Brock Purdy. I mean, if he comes out and just takes that offense to the next level, not the current level they're at, he's got to step it up and go to the next level and become a Heisman candidate producer in order for them to almost get over that hump of OU, but I don't think they can. I just don't. I think OU.
Do I would say have?
I can't tell you the receivers.
Exactly.
Yep. But man, it's all on Brock Purdy now. OSU. I mean, can Sanders really step it up and become that leader? There's a few comments from Coach Bundy here about him. Let's see if I can find that right here. Here it is right here. Coach Gundy had to say this about QB1 Sanders. He seems to be improving each year, seems to be improving each day. The supporting cast around him needs to do their part because we all know that he and I are getting too much credit. And people are being too critical of us. So Mike Gundy is pretty much telling his receivers, his running backs, his O-line, you have to step it up. Sanders is ready. But we need you guys to help support him. But OU takes that conference, no problem.
Colby?
Kansas. No, I'm just fine. OU's going to win by quite a bit.
Dark horse.
Dark horse, Kansas.
Even close.
So, I mean, I think we all agree. OU, like the other conferences, is the clear favorite in the conference. Top 4 is the top 4. There's really no way to get around that. I'm kind of with Vance. I'm not not with him. I think Breece Hall has to have a big year again because I've seen these years where Iowa State, team like Iowa State, so Oklahoma State's position where they have a great running back, and you expect him to have that good year again and carry the offense, and he doesn't. Chuba Hubbard had that problem last year. We all expected Chuba to have a huge year, contend for the Heisman with 2,000 yards, and it didn't happen. You know, things happen in the offseason, kind of get hurt, and then it's just not the same. So to me, Breece Hall, right? It's not Bryce. It's definitely Breece. Breece Hall is the key to that team. I like Brock Purdy. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's a solid, good quarterback. But I think if Breece doesn't have the year he has to have, that offense goes nowhere. So Iowa State could contend. That offense for
I don't
OU
think anybody contends.
Yeah, it's true. I think OU's just flat out. They're just better, and they're just better. Oklahoma State,
they're going to be all right.
Okay.
They'll be 8-3 team.
It'll be a Gundy team. 8-4, 9-3. That's where they're at. OU's a loss guaranteed. We'll see where it goes. They beat Iowa State last year. I think they beat Iowa State again. I don't think Iowa State's that much better than Oklahoma State. We'll see how the offensive line is. Offensive line is key. They've been really bad the last couple of years. Hopefully they get better. Running it should fine for Oklahoma State, but OU wins. We're doing conference champions. OU wins.
OU wins.
Hands down. There's no reason to discuss that. Spencer Rattler's really good. Although they've had some running back issues recently. He lost 2 running backs in the last 2 days. That affects them. I don't know. I think Spencer's making
Kennedy Brooks is ready to step up and take it over this year.
Losing
LSU transfer Trey Bradford is, I mean, it's kind of a big loss because he probably would have been running back number 2, right? Head coach Lincoln Riley and running back coach DeMarco Murray loved his explosiveness and speed. They hoot and hollered about it in interviews this past week. But he ain't showed up to practice in the past 2 days, so he's officially still on their roster, but he's no longer with OU. It's pretty much where they're getting at with it.
Yeah, OU wins this pretty easily. I think Chad agrees. I think everybody agrees. It is what it is. Top 4 is top 4. We need a bigger playoff, and NIL is going to be not great for things to go forward. So with that, let's move to the last conference we have, the Pac-12. Actually, there could be some different decisions here. The Pac-12 doesn't have that great team, I don't think. So, Cheese, why don't you start the last conference for us?
I think Oregon's going to win this conference. I think they have a lot of athletes on defense. They're really good. They have I can't remember his name, but defensive end is just a monster. So I just think that Oregon's just a step above the other teams, but not a lot. It could really go and to a lot of teams. There are a lot of teams that could win the Pac-12 this year.
Vance?
I'm going not really dark horse. USC returns to greatness this year and takes the Pac-12 over from Oregon. I think they're right there ready to take that next step. We gotta wait to see it.
I agree with Cheese on this one. I got Oregon winning it. I think they're just little better than everybody else. Utah was somebody I looked at. They got their quarterbacks coming back. They're pretty solid defensively. I can't remember their coach's name, but he's got them going in the right direction. I think they might be able to take a step, but I think in the day Oregon is probably still better than everybody else. Not by much. And again, this is the one conference that really there's probably
6
a favorite.
teams could win.
Yeah, a couple
Arizona
teams
State
could
could
win.
Right? USC could win it. Oregon could win it. Utah could win it.
Yeah, like different teams can win it, and like it wouldn't be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And you never know, Chip Kelly might have UCLA doing something this year. I mean, I would doubt it. They're pretty terrible, but I mean,
they're bad. They could.
You never know with Chip Kelly, right? Like it's possible, but you're right. I mean, Stanford's down. Stanford's no good, but a couple teams could win this conference, and I don't think anybody would be shocked by it, which is awesome. Which I wish more conferences were like that. Makes for better discussion, makes for better watching, really. And there's just not much to say about Pac-12 other than that. So, with all our conference champions picked, let's get to the big question here: playoff predictions. Who do you have making it to the playoff? And once you go ahead and give us a champion as well, Vance, we'll start with you.
All right, I think OU gets in the college football playoffs at number 1 seed, just because there's no one that can contend with them. Last year, they put up 494.7 yards per game of offense. I think this year that number probably gets higher and they break that 500 mark. They just have to win the Big 12 and they're in, pretty much. Followed by Clemson at the number 2 spot. I don't see anybody in that conference taking Clemson down. They win their championship game. They're in. I think Bama falls to number 3. I think they lose a game early due to quarterback play. And then their quarterback turns it on at the back end of the season, becomes a Heisman favorite behind Spencer Rattler, obviously. So Bama squeaks in at number 3. And then I have Ohio State getting in at number 4. I just don't see anybody in the Big Ten or anybody outside of those 4 making that leap to get into the college football playoffs. We'll see with that. I have OU taking home. I mean, I'm being a homer, but this is
Homer
the year.
alert.
This is the year. This is the year OU takes that leap. Spencer Rattler takes them to the next level. Kennedy Brooks is back. We got the running game, barring injury like we did Trey Sermon. Losing Trey Sermon was huge. Kennedy Brooks being there is going to make the huge difference. I think OU takes it home this year, and we finally break the curse from 2000, and we just move on over.
Well, we're big, but I like it. And there's nothing wrong with OU's really good this year. But let's move over to Cheese. Cheese, what are your playoff thoughts?
I think that I think Alabama is going to be the clear-cut number 1 team, and I think Ohio State gets in. I think OU gets in, but I think Oregon's going to get in because I think the Pac-12 is weak. And I think Clemson's going to drop one to Georgia, and they don't play Notre Dame. They don't play anybody after they play Georgia. Like their schedule is bad, like really bad. Like Florida State is probably the biggest name team they play after Georgia. I mean, they play Connecticut, Wake Forest, Louisville, Pittsburgh, Syracuse. You know, like they can't lose a game.
Must be nice.
I think they're gonna lose one, and I don't think they're gonna get in. I think they're better than Oregon, but I just don't think. I think Oregon's gonna go undefeated in a weak Pac-12.
So real quick, with a weak schedule like that, could playing North Carolina, if they are really good, top 10 now, if playing Carolina that far into the season after playing nobody good, could that affect that game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to see a good team until Carolina after Georgia.
Right.
South Carolina, maybe. South Carolina's their last game before that championship.
I don't think
maybe they're good.
Not good.
I don't know.
Who knows? All right. For my picks, I got OU, Clemson, Georgia, and Ohio State. Obviously, same. I think Clemson runs the table. I agree. I think Clemson. We'll talk more about it. I think Clemson loses to Georgia and runs the table. I think Ohio State runs the table, and I think Georgia beats Alabama in the SEC championship game and takes that spot this year. I think JT Daniels is going to take the step this year. I think he's going to take a step, be a Heisman contender, be in New York, and I think he leads Georgia to an SEC title game and to the playoff. So it's a little bit off the wall, but I think this year Georgia does it.
I think finally Nick Saban does play Oregon in week 2.
Iowa State does?
Yeah.
Iowa State or Ohio State?
Ohio State plays Oregon week 2.
Ohio State was Oregon. Okay, that'd be good. That'd be good. A good post for Oregon then. Colby, were you aware of that?
Huh?
Does that change your picks at all?
They can lose. No, they can lose to Ohio State.
Or they could beat them.
Or they could. They won't. But they can lose to Ohio State because they're going to run the floor. Like, I don't think they're going to. Like, I think Clemson has a chance to lose another game with an inexperienced quarterback, and I don't think Oregon's going to lose a game.
No, I don't agree with that. But yeah, so I got OU, Clemson,
Like, they
Georgia,
don't
Ohio
play
State.
USC this year.
Colby, who was your pick for champion? We didn't get your pick. Who actually
Oh,
wins
Alabama by like a
Alabama.
lot.
Yeah, I think I can't pick. OU is definitely a contender. Like, their offense is gonna be really good, and their defense should be serviceable this year, more than it has been in any year previous. Actually, serviceable to good. Because I mean OU and Georgia, I think OU probably squeaks them out in the end. But it'll be interesting to see. OU's definitely a favorite. You can't deny that. Any final thoughts in the playoffs? Chat. Anybody else? Colby, Vance, any final thoughts in the playoff or playoff predictions?
Alabama's going to win. I don't think there's like I mean I pick Oregon, you pick Georgia. I don't think there's going to be a huge discrepancy. I mean those top 4 teams. The top 4 are the top 4 for a reason.
Yep.
Agreed.
That's why they need to expand it. It's great seeing these top 4 teams face each other year in and year out, minus the little Notre Dame blunder. It's great to see these top 4 teams just duke it out every year. But man, it'd be nice to see OU finally get past that hump and actually make it to the BCS championship. I'd love to see that.
You see, I
need OU to win a playoff game. We've had like 5 years of just disappointment after disappointment, first round exits.
As an OSU fan, I don't want to hear you talk about disappointment to me. Okay, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, you guys got it rough over there.
Is just based on this. That's all we do is disappointment.
It's like that one dude that rolls into KU games every single week and just sits there with the Jayhawks on his head. Just come on, just get us a win. And then they play their cupcake team week 1, get a win. Everyone thinks they're back, and then they're gone.
That's like they usually don't get that win.
Right? Yeah. They've lost that game previously.
Dude. They play some high school team week 1 and catch a loss. Yeah.
Yeah, they're bad. Although they usually compete with Texas pretty good, which is also embarrassing for Texas.
Yeah.
Didn't they beat Texas like 2 years ago?
Yes.
Never freaked out?
Yeah.
That was fantastic. All right, so we talked about all the teams. Let's do some quick Heisman talk. We'll start with Colby here. Who are your Heisman favorites? Who think's going to win it? Any dark horses you have?
I think anybody that plays Alabama is going to have a really good chance, whether that's a quarterback, wide receiver, or running back, to win Heisman. Just because of the marketing and who they're playing. And I also think that And I also think that Slovis from USC has a chance because he's a California kid. JT Daniels, but I think Rattler is the clear favorite.
Is he who you think wins in the end of the year?
I think Rattler's going to
win. Vance?
Yeah, so Rattler has the best odds to win the Heisman at plus 500, followed by Bryce Young at Alabama, their quarterback, at plus 600. Ohio State's, who've not seen yet take a snap, CJ Stroud, is sitting at third best odds at plus 800. And then DJ Ulalugia from Clemson, however you pronounce that dude's name,
Nailed it.
He's tied with CJ for fourth best odds. Those are my top 4. I also have a sleeper Heisman candidate that I think is going to surprise a lot of people at plus 3,000 odds to win the Heisman.
3,000.
Yeah, plus 3,000.
Where's my money going, man?
Put your money down on this guy right now. This is a betting show. We're betting plus 3,000 odds for Brock Purdy from Iowa State. This dude, if he takes that next leap, he can make Iowa State an elite team this year. And they could just be one of those Cinderella teams that just come up out of nowhere and take a playoff spot and dethrone OU in the Big 12 for 1 year.
Oof. So I think we all agree Spencer Rattler's a clear-cut favorite. He's my pick. 1, he's really good. 2, Lincoln Riley just wins Heisman's with his quarterbacks is what he does. It's kind of like his job description. So I think it's
first-round picks.
Heisman and first overall, overall picks.
Back to back, baby.
I mean, he made Jalen Hurts a second-round pick. And Jalen Hurts, he's not bad, but I mean,
hey, Philly's gonna be weirdly good.
So I think Spencer Rattler wins it. I think JT Daniels is a close second. I think he makes it. I think he takes a leap this year. I think he really surprises people and puts together a full season and leads Georgia to big things and is in New York for sure. My dark horse is on the same. Again, we talked about this earlier. Is on the same line as Vance, but different. I think Brees Hall is the key to that offense. I think Brees Hall is going to have to make that offense run and make them two-dimensional. Because if he doesn't have that year he had last year, everybody wants him to have it. That offense is not going to go where everyone wants it to go. I think Brees Hall needs to have the year everybody thought Chuba was going to have last year. He has to have that kind of year. So I think he does have that year. I think Iowa State is that consistent. I think Matt Campbell is big on the running game and will force the ball down people's throats, and he'll get his yards, he'll get his touchdowns. And I think a little bit of reason someone just disconnected.
Yeah, it was
messed the Earth thing up. I'll fix that in a minute. And I think I lost my train of thought. I think the voters are getting a little bit of a quarterback fatigue. So I think they're looking to give it somebody who's not a quarterback. So I think if running back like Brees Hall can have a great year, I think the voters will vote for him. So they're tired of quarterbacks having it every year. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll pick Spencer Rattler for the Heisman. I don't think. I mean, he's a favorite, and that's all there's to it.
Yeah, he's a clear-cut favorite to win it. I mean, the offense
For
is
multiple
going to
reasons.
be
Again.
too prolific this year. We're looking at almost 500-plus yards of offense per game for OU this year.
Yeah, and like we said, Lincoln Riley just wins Heisman as quarterbacks.
Yep.
And I honestly could see Spencer going number 1 overall whenever he goes out. So I mean, it is what it is at that point.
I mean, we get 2 years of Spencer.
You get 2 years left still?
Yep, we have 2 years left of Spencer.
Oh, I'm so tired of that guy already.
Like, let me verify that. We got 2 years left of Spencer. Yeah, he's a sophomore. He redshirted his freshman year. Sophomore this year, junior next year.
Well, but he's a redshirt sophomore, so he can leave. He was a
redshirt freshman.
Last year's, no, this year's a redshirt freshman.
Your redshirt doesn't count. You can't leave.
No, but it counts for him being gone, though.
I don't think
he's only going to be gone 3 years.
I don't think he'll leave this year.
Regardless, wherever he leaves, I think he's going to be 1 overall, barring injury, something crazy happening. So, Spencer Rattler. All right, so we talked about a lot tonight. We've got our picks in. We've all got our conference picks in, playoff picks in. Let's do a local talk before we end this show. Been almost an hour and a half now, so let's do a local talk. Let's first go over. Let's do Oklahoma's schedule first. Let's go down the schedule here, Vance, and we'll talk about Oklahoma's games and how many games they're going to win, close games, who could give them good games. What we think of their overall season.
All right, so they open the season against Tulane, which surprisingly is not on pay-per-view. It's actually going to be on ABC on September 4th at 11 a.m. So that's pretty surprising that their opening game is not on pay-per-view. It doesn't look like they have a game on pay-per-view. Right? They played WCU, which is this Western California Crapper Mats is what I think they call their name. I'm not sure.
Powerhouse.
Powerhouse. Nebraska getting back on the schedule for OU is a huge win in my opinion. Just being able to get the old feel of OU versus Nebraska, man. Those were such good games growing up. Being able to watch those. West Virginia, I think, is going to be kind of a cakewalk for OU. Kansas State always seems to give OU fits, but at the end of the game, I think it's going to be a win. Texas could also give us fits. I mean, that's back-to-back weeks, Kansas State and Texas. We could honestly drop that game to Texas. I don't think we will, but it's happened. So we'll see. TCU is going to be a walk. Kansas is going to be a walk. Texas Tech can give us fits sometimes. We like to get in a lot of throwing battles against Texas Tech. I mean, a lot. Some of the most prolific college football games I've ever seen. I mean, the Mahomes-Baker show was just absolutely phenomenal, where they both threw over 500 yards. I think Mahomes actually threw for 700 yards. Yeah, absolutely insane. Baylor seems to always give us fits late in the year. I hate that we play them late in the year. I wish we could play them earlier in the year. That way, if we drop Baylor always gets ranked, right? They always find a way to get ranked. So if we drop it to them early, they get ranked late. It looks really good for the College Playoff Committee. Iowa State is the one team I think can dethrone OU in the Big 12. We play them the week before OSU, and the OSU battle, hey, that's bedlam. In my opinion, it's usually a 50-50 game, but this year I think OU is just too dominant of an offense to lose to OSU this year. Iowa State is the only team.
Quick question. In what world do you live where that's a 50-50 game? Gunny has won that game twice. That's not a 50-50 game anymore. That is an 80-20 game.
Bedlam and Red River rivalry are the only 2 games of the year, every single year, where I go into it thinking, oh, man, dude, OU could just. It's like they could just drop this. Like maybe it gets to their head, right? Because they think, oh, OSU wasn't what they were years past. So it's like, does it let it get to them, or do they step up? Because Bedlam's such a huge game for us, man. I always sweat Red River and the Bedlam. Always.
They seem to step up because again, Gunny's won that game twice, and one was because he had his best team of all time and OU was down. That was 2011. He had his best team of all time and OU was not. It wasn't great that year. That's not a 50-50 game. That is a OU dominates that game.
The only game I always.
You're right. It is a rivalry, so you never really know. Like they could happen, but every year I talk about this with friends. I'm like, I'm never picking OSU in that game until they prove they can do it. Gundy's had teams that should have beat OU, and he never does it. I blame it strictly on Gundy. It's conservative play calling, bad play calling. I think there was one year, Mason's last year, he really let the play calling go. And we scored, I think it was final game like 52-45. And it was really again like Gundy, just let it go, let the ball fly. There was one year OU had like the worst secondary in college football ranked like statistics wise, like the worst secondary. And we threw the ball like 10 times. And we had James Washington. It's like, what are you doing? You have the best receiver in college football, and a quarterback can get him the ball. Throw the football downfield against the second, and he wouldn't do it. And I think he's cost himself a lot of those games he shouldn't have. But I kind of agree with you. They roll through Tulane, WC. They roll obviously. Nebraska is not good. They roll that game. Nebraska actually tried to get out of the game. Scott Frost was trying to back out of the game like somewhat recently. He wants no part of OU, and I don't blame him. He's trying to save his job, and losing by 50 to OU is not going to look good on his resume. West Virginia could be tough. It's in Norman, though, so probably not. I think OU wins that easy. Kansas State in Manhattan is going to be a bit of a tight walk. Kansas State, like I said, always does give them problems. It's just what Kansas State does. So it could be a bit of an issue, especially in Manhattan. I think they roll Texas pretty easy. I don't think Texas is very good this year with a new quarterback as well. They don't know who's starting yet. And I don't think Sark's a great coach. I know they're all excited about Coach Sark, but I'm like, there's a reason he got fired at USC, and there's a reason he was an assistant at Alabama. Like, he's okay, he's good, but like, he's not a coach that's going to take Texas to a huge level to me. He's just they win 9 games, but he's not a great coach to me. And by great, I mean like a Lincoln Riley, Nick Saban, Dabo. Like, he's like second, third tier. Maybe with Gundy, honestly. I don't know how good Sark does at Oklahoma State. Gundy's done great things at Oklahoma State, don't get me wrong. I don't know if Sark can do that at Oklahoma State. I think it'd be Texas. I think they roll TCU. Kansas, obviously, win. Texas Tech in Norman. I think they roll, obviously. I think Baylor's going to be down this year. I think Baylor is not going to do well this year. And I think OU beats them pretty easily. I don't think that's too to worry about. But worrying about the schedule right now is that they play Iowa State on the 20th, which is their toughest game this year. Yeah. On paper, best team. And they play Oklahoma State the 27th, which is the next week. Which means the week after that, they're probably already going to know they're playing Iowa State again. So how does that work as a trap game in Bedlam, where they just beat Iowa State, probably in a close game, and they got them again in a week? I think that could be a trap situation. Those 3 games in a row, being that late in the season, could be a situation they got to worry about. Overall, I think they're the best team, one of the best teams in the country, if not the best team. I think they get through it just fine. But it could be a trap situation there with Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and then probably Iowa State again right after that. I think it could be a situation where they might look ahead to the second game is Iowa State.
Yep.
So it could be a problem there, but we'll see. I think they win all those games, and then they're my playoffs. So I think they win all those games. Any final thoughts on OU? Chat, Vance, anybody?
We use clear cut favorite. Colby going to be able to join us back?
It doesn't seem like it. Oklahoma State. Let's go to Oklahoma State real quick, and then we'll call this a night. Again, we're taking suggestions in chat for a name. I'm not going to say we're going to use it, but we'll take suggestions.
Next week, I'll have a lot of Tulsa football talk to go over.
Tulsa. Well, we'll do Tulsa next week.
Yep. I don't have nothing to go over Tulsa. I tried to research what I could, and I just couldn't find any good articles to write about. Honestly, it was hard.
All right, so I'll start with Oklahoma State. See, I'm the Oklahoma State guy here. Keys this year are going to be offensive line, and Spencer Sanders taking the next step. I think our receivers are fine. We always have good receivers. I think Brennan Presley this year is going to be an absolute stud. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people, and it's going to be that all-around player. not Reggie Bush, but like a Reggie Bush, can take the ball in a jet sweep. Not in a running back situation though. Like, he's more a receiver. Take the ball in jet sweeps, quick slants, beat you deep. He's really good. I'm really excited about his brother next year, who actually is there signed to Oklahoma State, and like Alabama wanted that kid. He's really good. I think the press is really good. So main key is the offensive line. When Spencer got hurt last year, I think Shane Illingworth's a great quarterback. I think he'd be really good, but he's not mobile. So when the offensive line wasn't blocking anybody, he couldn't do anything. He's like, oh, I got to get rid of the ball because I have no offensive line. So going on schedule, they beat Missouri State easy. I think they handled Tulsa pretty easy. Boise State in Idaho, I think they lose that game. I don't know how good Boise State is this year, but I don't know how good Oklahoma State is going to be there based on offensive line. I think the defense will be really good, though. The defense should be pretty good. So they could beat Boise State, but I don't like their chance in that game. As of right now, going to week 3, that may change. I think they beat Kansas State. I think they beat Baylor. I think they lose to Texas. I think they lose to Iowa State in Ames. They beat Kansas, obviously. I think they lose to West Virginia, beat TCU, beat Tech, and I think they lose to OU. So we're looking at probably, was that 1,
That's like an
2,
8-4, huh?
3? Yeah, I don't think they're great this year. Sanders the wild card. Marshmallow, I agree. Gunny thinks he's taking the next step. I don't know if that's true. We'll find out. But somebody's got to block for him too. Like, he has to have protection. They can beat Texas. I just think this year they're not going to in Austin. So I think we're about 8-4, maybe pull out 9-3. I don't think they're great this year. I think the defense is really good, but their offense, I don't know, will have the depth and explosiveness that we kind of expect. The running game should be fine. I can't think of the guy's name right now. Dominique. They have 2 backs that are really good. LD Brown and Dominic Richardson, I think, are really good backs. Beginning offensive line probably won't be very good. So it's going to be an issue to move the ball. Marshall, I hope they beat Texas. But I'm having an 8-3 or 8-4, 9-3-ish, maybe. Thoughts, Vance?
I think OSU is an 8-4, 9-3 team.
Yeah.
I kind of have them winning and losing all the same games you have. I don't see them beating Texas. If they do, that's the game that gets them ranked, assuming they don't lose a game early in the season. Iowa State is just going to be too good this year. I think they're going to be the number 2 in the Big 12. I don't see them getting past them, and then they'll bounce back off KU, go into West Virginia.
And Morgantown's rough.
They usually have a rough time at West Virginia, don't they?
Yes.
LSU? Yeah.
And yeah.
So maybe that one's a toss-up battle between them, and that drops them down to that. What, man? 8-4, 7-5. Wow. Ugh. TCU. I mean, I don't know. Sanders has to have a year, man. He just has to.
I agree.
Texas,
I really agree.
Texas Tech. I don't remember in recent memory of them having battles with Texas Tech. It's either a blowout either way. When I remember, I'll go back and check on that and look at it next week.
Yeah.
But I mean, OU's winning easy on that obviously. One. But like I said, the OU game is the only game of the year, them and Texas, that just give me those butterflies in my stomach. Like, man, OU could really lose this game. Like, so OSU has a chance to be very good, but it's on their O-line and their running backs this year, and if Sanders can take that next step.
Yeah, so I always just mark OU's a loss. I don't have the faith or the worry about it as like you do. Like, OSU doesn't win that game anymore. They don't. There was a time like Wes Miles was there, even like early 90s, that Gundy does not beat OU. He doesn't do it. Until he does, I'm never picking OSU in that game because it's not going to happen. But as I looked at that schedule and I noticed it was Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and the Big 12 title game, it is quite a trap. It is quite a trap game. It is in Stillwater, so that could really trap OU. It's there. I think OU wins the game, but it could be a big trap game for them.
One guy I want to do really well at OSU is a dude that I kind of grew up with in the old wrestling scene. Gabe Simpson, wide receiver. He's a junior this year at OSU. Hopefully that dude just turns into a monster.
I hope so. I hope they all turn into monsters.
He's 6'3", 220 pounds. I know they lie on depth charts. Realistically, he's probably like 6'2", 200 pounds. But,
yeah.
You know, hopefully he takes that next
in high
step.
school, my basketball roster said I was 6'6". I was not 6'6". Still not 6'6". Well, Marshall, I say it's trap game just because it's Iowa State. They play Iowa State, and they play OSU the next week, and they play the Big 12 title game the next week. So I think if they beat Iowa State, and if Oklahoma State and they're looking forward to Iowa State again, it's probably a close game, I think it could be somewhat of a trap game. I don't mean it's like OU's going to look past them. I think just that it falls in between Iowa State and the Big 12 title game could be an issue.
Yep.
It probably won't be, but it could be. To me, that's when I see that schedule, I think, well, they got Iowa State 2 or 3 weeks, and Oklahoma State sandwiched in the middle. So maybe OSU catches them sleeping. They won't, because even if they are, Gunny's also sleeping anyway. So it doesn't matter. Gunny sleeps that week.
Yeah.
So that kind of wraps up all our thoughts and our plan for the night. We'll kind of get to the end of your advance. Any last thoughts on college football season we talked about tonight or going forward?
Man, there's a lot of teams. I kind of want Brock Purdy to take that step because I want OU to have somebody. I want to have a really good game within the Big 12 conference. I mean, I don't like having a blowout every week is, cool and all. Watching Spencer Rattler throw for 430 yards, eight touchdowns.
Yeah. I know.
Those are fun to watch and all
I know that feeling.
till halftime. But it's like, man, I would just love to see OU getting a couple dog fights this year to really show that grit, man. I want Tulsa to step up into that. I mean, they got ranked last year, but they had Zavon Wilson, Zavon Collins, excuse me.
Oh, that guy was a beast.
Yeah, dude, that middle linebacker. He's an athlete, man.
Beast. Yeah.
It's absolutely wicked. I'm pretty sure he went to Baltimore this year.
Arizona.
Cardinals. Oh my God, that's right. Yeah,
I think he got in trouble, didn't he?
I haven't seen anything about him yet.
I think he got in trouble for weed or something.
I'm gonna look it up while we're sitting here.
I am too, actually. Collins arrested for reckless driving, excessive speed, and reckless driving.
Okay. He was released 37
That's
minutes.
too bad. It's not marijuana. It's a lot better than anything real bad. I mean, it could be bad. Doing 76 and a 35.
Jeez, man. Yeah.
Relax.
That's kind of wild.
But y'all talk more on Tulsa next week. We'll have fun.
I should have a lot of Tulsa talk next week.
I hope you have some close games. I think it helps them in the playoff go in the long run. And it's more entertaining to watch. And I'm not an OU fan, so if they lose, that doesn't bother me none. Yeah. Marshall, we went over our conference champions. We went over our playoff predictions, Heisman contenders. We're all kind of the same. We've always said the top four is the top four. Ohio State. I actually have Georgia winning the SEC. Colby and Vance had Bama, which probably makes a lot of sense, obviously. We all had Clemson winning the ACC. We all had Ohio State. We all had OU winning the Big 12, obviously. Vance had USC winning the Pac-12. Me and Colby had Oregon pulling it out. We all had Spencer Rattler.
OK State is not a trap game this year. Spencer Sanders is not the man.
Well, I've been saying it's just where it sits up in the schedule. It's a weird place to sit in the schedule.
Yeah.
I'm not saying OSU's better than OU or is good. I'm just saying it's a weird place in the schedule. We remember Heisman favorites. We all had Spencer Rattler as the favorite. Who was your dark horse, Vance? Remind him.
For
Heisman.
Heisman. Oh, Brock Purdy, Iowa State. He's got plus 3,000 odds as a chance to win. Place your bets now. Spencer Rattler's a clear favorite. A lot of money. But if you want to make the maximum amount of money, bet on Brock Purdy.
I was on the same wavelength. Or you may never know. I was on the same wavelength, but different position. I think Breece Hall is the dark horse this year. I think quarterback fatigue for the voters, and Iowa State's going to need him to have a big year. Like OSU needed from Chuba last year. I keep saying that. If he has that year, I think he gets in New York. I think he ends up winning it. Depending on, I don't think he wins it. He could win it. He could have that year. So that's what we went over tonight. We went over quite a bit of stuff. We'll be back next week with talk about some of the bigger games, do some picks against the spread, picks straight up, talk about some rankings. Anything you want to talk about real quick, Marshmallow, before we head out? Chat, emails in chat. We'd love to hear your opinions and discuss anything you want to bring up.
As the show gets a little bit bigger, we'll get some more people rolling into chat and get a little more active in chat. But...
Yeah. Cheese lost his internet. We go over realignment. We over realignment a little bit. We think OU is probably around that top. I mean, Bama is probably better than them flat out right now. Vance, we have anything else better than OU, did we? Other than Bama? Like, we think we're just because LSU, Georgia.
Alabama's the only team better, or potentially better than OU right now.
Only team better, or
Yeah, I
potentially
made the
better.
point that I'd like to see those SEC defenses that are already kind of on downcline. I'd like to see them play in OU after a week of preparation, not giving them a month and a half, 2 months to prepare for them for a bowl game. You think Saban in a month and a half, he's going to be ready, period, no matter who he's playing. So I'd like to see them play OU. Going to the Big 12, we all have OU and Iowa State, I think. I don't think anyone else in the conference is really ready to take that step. Texas is not great. TCU is not great. OSU is not great. I think Iowa State's really good. I don't think they're great. I think OU is great. I think OU is really good this year. OU and Iowa State.
Yeah, that'll be the Big 12.
Ooh, who do you think? Do you think they're going to add teams to Marshmallow? What do you think happens to Big 12, Vance? Let's talk about that. We didn't bring that.
Big 12 is going to fall apart.
Teams all go elsewhere.
Yeah, everyone's gonna. So teams are gonna have to adopt other teams, right? So OSU's gonna eventually leave from the Big 12, or the Big 12 is gonna. I think they're just gonna fall apart, but I also think the Big 12 is gonna absorb other teams that want to leave conferences and become better. Possibly Cincinnati. They could maybe want to leave, but they're the top in their division in the AAC. So I don't know, but maybe some of these independent schools join a conference like the FBS and
BYU.
Notre Dame joins a conference. Maybe they join the Big 12, right?
BYU could join them.
BYU could join them. Liberty. I mean, I think Army will always be a independent, but they could join the Big 12. And I mean, I think they fall apart, but I think they just all split up. And the Big 12 is.
Marshall was saying in the rumor mill, 15 teams contacted the Big 12. Did they say what 15 teams? If I'm the Big 12, what I probably do is I try to add some teams that you don't already have markets in or recruiting. You try to add Cincinnati, so you can recruit out of Ohio a little bit. You add a USF or UCF. Now you have a pipeline in Florida. You try to add some quality too. Like Cincinnati's a quality team, right? Like they're quality team.
They're top in their conference.
Yeah.
If they want to step up, then they need to move to the Big 12. But in the AAC, they're not going to do anything.
Yeah. So if you're the Big 12, you're 8 teams right now, right? If you can add Cincinnati, UCF's had a couple good years, been in New Year's Six bowls. Maybe you had a Coastal Carolina who's had a really good year. I guess you could add Houston. I'm against adding Houston, but I mean, if it helps, it helps. Add BYU, Boise State. Honestly, you're better than the Pac-12 overall. The Pac-12 is not good. It's just not. It might get better with the NIL. I think USC might take a step. Oregon's starting to head back that direction. But UCLA is not good. Stanford's not good. Arizona teams are decent, maybe. But I think you compete with the Pac-12, and you're still technically a Power 5 school, I think.
Yep.
But you've got to add. I think you got to add Cincinnati for the market and for recruiting. Same with UCF and a USF. You add recruiting and you add a market that you don't have right now. But you can't. I don't think adding Houston does anything. You already have a Texas market. And they're not like a great football school. So I mean, I don't think they add anything to the conference. So that's my thoughts on it. I would add. That's who I would add and what I would do. Again, as an OSU fan, I think on the field, this is all win for us. As far as on the field goes, I mean, we're going to be a top player. We don't have an OU in our way anymore. We're going to be a contender in our conference every year. We don't have that right now. I don't think. Again, every year it's OU, and you might stick them and bite them. But it hasn't happened not 6-7 years since OU lost the conference. Yeah, it doesn't happen that often. So my brother was like, they should join the SEC. I'm like, why would we join the SEC? Now we're behind Bama, we're behind OU, we're behind A&M, we're behind LSU. Like, we become 6th best in the conference just immediately. And we're not going to pass those schools, especially NIL. We're not passing those schools. So I think you get away from OU. I wouldn't mind joining the Big Ten. I think we compete in the Big Ten outside of Ohio State. I think we compete with Wisconsin every few years. I don't think Wisconsin's that many steps above Oklahoma State. Michigan's sure not right now. And Indiana, I think we compete with Indiana every year. Iowa the same. I mean, yeah, it would be like Missouri, and I don't want to be in line with Missouri. That sounds absolutely dreadful. It sounds like a dreadful experience for a college football fan to be in line with Mizzou. I don't want to do that. I have no interest in that. I'm saying get away from the SEC. Do not even consider that for on the field stuff. This is my thoughts on it. Again, to me, it was going to the 12-team playoff, Oklahoma State, getting into a Pac-12, even joining a group of 5 team, positions themselves to be a playoff contender. because you're going to be one of the best in your conference, and you'll definitely be one of the best Group of 5 teams.
Yep.
So, like in a 12-team playoff, a Group of 5 team is going to get in. If you're the best Group of 5 team, you're positioning yourself in a playoff position. Dark Sage has a question for college football. Let's hear it, bud. What you got, Dark Sage? The suspense is killing me.
Yeah.
What's the question?
Maybe he'll just leave chat.
Trolling
And be
us?
like, I have
Is he
a
trolling
question.
us?
I have a question, and then leave.
I have a question. Make him think about it for a minute. What we got here, Dark Sage? Is this a troll? I think he's trolling us.
Hmm.
We'll give him 15 seconds. We're going to wrap this up.
It's a long question.
Hey, maybe it's a long question. Maybe it's a solid question. Bring us another 20 minutes of content. Is it about my awesome TikToks I made this week?
Yeah. Solid TikToks.
First time I made TikToks, guys. I've just now got on that app for this, actually.
Could actually live stream this from.
Oh, you could, yeah. All right, 10, 9. Come on, Dark Sage. What's the question? 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, then. If no more questions, no one has anything, let's go and wrap this up tonight. Vance, any final thoughts?
Nope. Just so everybody in the chat, in all chat parties are aware, this is being live streamed on all of our Twitches, correct? Yeah, on Cody's Twitch. I don't know if Colby is streaming on Twitch or not. Was he?
I don't lose. He lost the internet. He's
Okay.
definitely out.
All right. I have it streaming on my YouTube and my Facebook live accounts. I mean,
What are those links?
So for the Facebook one, you can just type in Wilson Maniac on Facebook Gaming. I may create a separate page for this because I mean this was a ton of fun. I honestly think this is going to take a lot more. Like I may move out from video games and move into this more. Honestly,
this was a blast.
It's also live on YouTube. You can just type that in, Wilson Maniac. If you're watching my stream, you'll see my Twitter handles pop up above my camera. I can't make that happen on Cody's stream. I probably can. I could probably send him my.
It's up right now. Your Twitter is on the chat. Well, it may not be on yours because the Discord changed, so it may just messed up your window.
Yeah.
But
I got my socials scrolling through the whole time on my stream right now. Maybe eventually, I mean, if this kind of blows up a little bit bigger, we create a channel altogether on YouTube or Facebook or even Twitch and just kind of do it off of that.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a thing. We got to come up with a name first, though. We need a name.
Yeah, we need names. People, if you're in the chat, we need name suggestions. Until then, we're going to go the unnameless college football picks.
We got the question from Dark Sage. You want to go real quick?
Let's see, yeah.
All right, here's the go. I am a diehard Army fan, and I often watch college football games with Army and Navy playing in them. However, I tend to notice that the teams all across the league tend to be more respectful in the game very differently when Army and Navy are in town. I'm curious what this panel believes and the reason for this is. I'm not sure what teams you both cheer for, but what is it you like for both when you watch your team play at Service Academy School?
You say teams are more respectful?
Yeah, it seems like they're more respectful, and the games are just treated differently. You want to take it up first, or we take it first, Vance?
I'll let you go first. I don't think on that one a bit.
So there's multiple reasons, and I think the big one comes to, like, those are servicemen, right? Like, those... First of all, the traditions, especially Army, are fantastic. Army is a great football traditional school. We all know they were great in the World War II days, and they were fantastic. They were champions all the time. Co-champions with Oklahoma State in 1945, as you probably know. I thought to get a laugh from Vance, it did not. So I think they're servicemen, right? So those are soldiers from the United States military. So like they deserve some respect. And so I think when you play those schools, it's cool. You're playing one for the tradition. We know they have awesome bands as well, which is always cool to see. Like I love playing like Grambling State, the SWAC schools. They still run a triple option, especially Army, which is awesome. So I think it comes down to is just like they're servicemen. They deserve respect, and it's cool to see kids. I consider them kids at that age who are going to fight for the country, but are getting a chance to play college football before they do that. I think it's just a really cool experience to play a team with that much tradition, with those kind of individuals, because they're. I don't say they're all great individuals because there's bad apples everywhere, but they're great individuals, high character individuals, living out a dream before going on to fight for our country and put their lives on the line. Do you notice your team being more, I would say, respectful and playing differently? The team, I don't know. I don't know if the team plays it differently. I root for Oklahoma State. I've never seen them play at Service Academy. I know OU played Army a couple years ago, who is Vance's team.
Yep.
I don't know if they play differently as much as the single triple option is not common, and so when you see it, it's hard to defend because you don't have time to prepare for it. Like you need a week before an offense that you won't see ever again. Like you don't have tape on triple option unless you've played it every year, and you don't play that every year, right?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think OU played them differently. They showed a lot more respect on the field, so obviously there's not going to be that same amount of trash talk that you would normally get for like an OU versus OSU or an OU even versus blank school. You know, insert name school here, right? So that trash talk factor is not going to be there against Army, Air Force, Navy, teams such as that. And then playing them differently, the triple option, you always got to play the back man. So you play quarterback, and then you have another defender come down and play the back man, right? So there is an easy way to defend the triple option. It's just harder to read on that backside. So you'll see teams such as OU or other teams, they'll either come breaking down fast with a safety, and they'll have the safety because Army doesn't really throw the ball a whole lot. You'll see the safety come on down, crashing hard, stuff like that. But it's like the trash talk and the respect. Games being played. The games are being played differently, so they're even broadcasted differently. Only certain broadcast members can broadcast Army games. They don't let just anybody come out and broadcast those games. They have certain members that are selected through ESPN, Fox, wherever it's streamed at. I think most Army games are broadcasted on ABC and ESPN. So I mean, it's just the games are played differently, but the gameplay itself is not different. No, but the respect factor is there.
I agree. I think it's the same with the fans. The fans are more respectful because, again, servicemen, military personnel, especially in the state of Oklahoma, leans very far in one political direction. The military is very important to them. You know, they respect the military very greatly in all ways, shape, or form. So I think Oklahoma fans act different towards the Army because they're servicemen. I think that's what it comes down to as well, as far as the fans acting differently or anything like that. I didn't mean to me makes sense. Does that answer your question, Dark Sage? I hope it does. We're gonna wrap this up tonight. It's been an hour 45, guys. It has been a blast. We still need a name. If y'all want to give us a name or put names in chat, we'd love your suggestions.
Yeah.
We'll be here next week, same time, same places. Multiple streams, as Vance said. He's on his Twitch. I'm on my Twitch. I don't think Cheese streamed tonight. He's on Vance's YouTube. We're all on Twitter. I'm at CNC_Trigger. He's at Wilson Maniac. Our Switches are on the channel. Look up Wilson Maniac on YouTube. Final comments, Vance?
No, this is a lot of fun already.
Blast. Yeah. Absolute blast.
It feels good. Like video game, like playing video games all day is fun, but being able to talk about something like you truly enjoy is really fun.
Absolute blast. I agree.
Like I didn't even feel like any stress coming in to do this. I didn't feel nervous. No. It was just it's stuff you love to talk about, man. It's like that's what we're gonna do every week.
Love it. Talking comments from you guys is again a lot of fun. Look forward to you next week. Next week we'll do over picks of the week. We're gonna pick some games against the spread, pick some games straight up, top games obviously. Give you all some betting lines, betting odds, go over some games, analyze some games, see what we got going on. So for tonight, that's it. For Vance, I'm Trigger. Cheese is here as well. He had lost his internet. We'll see y'all next week, same time, Thursday, 7:30. Peace.